For the next few moments, I want you to consider a possibility that most people never allow themselves to fully explore. What if the person who closes their eyes tonight does not have to be the same person who opens them tomorrow morning? What if tonight is not simply another night of sleep, but a doorway, a threshold between an old identity and a new one, between the thoughts you've been repeating and the thoughts you have yet to think, between the emotions you've memorized and the emotions you've yet to experience? As you listen, allow yourself to release the need to figure anything out. There is nothing to solve, nothing to force, nothing to chase. Simply become aware. Aware that every transformation begins long before the world can see it. A seed changes before it breaks through the soil. A sunrise begins before the first light touches the horizon. And a new version of you begins before a single external circumstance has changed. Tonight, as your body prepares for rest, your mind has an opportunity to step beyond the familiar patterns that have defined your days. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air moving into your lungs. Hold it gently and release agon a little slower this time. Lomb every exhale to loosen the grip of who you've been. Lomb every inhale to welcome who you are becoming. Notice how your body is already beginning to soften. Your shoulders relaxing, your jaw unclenching, the muscles around your eyes becoming still. The body understands surrender better than the mind does. The body knows how to let go. And tonight, you are giving yourself permission to do the same. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by repetition. The same thoughts producing the same emotions reinforcing the same beliefs. The same beliefs creating the same choices, and the same choices producing the same experiences. Without realizing it, many people become experts at being who they were yesterday. They wake up and immediately remember their worries. They remember their limitations. They remember their frustrations. They remember the story they have told themselves for years. And because they remember it so well, they continue living it. But tonight, something different is possible. Tonight, you do not have to rehearse the past. You do not have to carry yesterday into tomorrow. You do not have to remain loyal to an identity that no longer serves you. Imagine for a moment that all the labels you've attached to yourself are gently dissolving, the doubts, the fears, the disappointments, the mistakes, the regrets. See them drifting away like mist in the morning sunlight. Not because they never happened, but because they no longer define who you are becoming. You are not your worst moment. You are not your biggest mistake. You are not the fear that visits your mind. You are not the limitation you've accepted as permanent. You are awareness itself, the observer, the creator, the consciousness capable of choosing again. Take another slow breath. As you inhale, imagine drawing in possibility. As you exhale, release certainty about who you think you are, because certainty can become a prison. The moment we become certain about our limitations, we stop searching for our potential. The moment we become certain about what is impossible, we stop creating what is possible. Tonight, allow yourself to enter the unknown. The unknown is not something to fear. It is the birthplace of every new reality. Every dream once existed in the unknown. Every achievement once existed in the unknown. Every transformation once existed in the unknown. And right now, a new version of you exists there, too, waiting. Not in some distant future, not years from now, but here now. As you relax more deeply, imagine stepping beyond the familiar landscape of your thoughts, beyond the daily conversations, beyond the routines, beyond the habits, beyond the emotional patterns you've carried for so long. Imagine entering a vast open space, a field of pure potential. In this space, you are not limited by your past. You are not restricted by old expectations. You are free to choose, free to imagine, free to become. Ask yourself a simple question. If I were no longer defined by my past, who would I choose to be? Would you be more confident, more peaceful, more courageous, more grateful, more abundant, more loving? Allow the answer to arise naturally. Do not force it. Simply notice, because somewhere within you, the answer already exists. There is a version of you that already embodies the qualities you desire. A version of you that thinks differently, feels differently, acts differently, and creates different results. Tonight, begin connecting with that version. Imagine seeing them clearly. Notice how they carry themselves. Notice their energy, their posture, their presence. Notice the calm certainty they possess. Not because life is perfect, but because they no longer depend on external circumstances to define how they feel. Feel yourself moving closer, step by step, breath by breath, until the distance between you begins to disappear. Now imagine merging with that future self. Lams their confidence to become your confidence. Lams their peace to become your peace. Lams their gratitude to become your gratitude. Lams their energy to become your energy. Because the mind does not always distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. What you repeatedly feel, you begin to become. What you repeatedly embody, you begin to express. What you repeatedly practice internally, you begin to create externally. So tonight, practice becoming, not wishing, not hoping, becoming. Feel gratitude as though your transformation has already happened. Feel freedom as though the old limitations have already fallen away. Feel abundance as though it already surrounds you. Feel love as though it already fills every corner of your being. The emotion is the signal, the feeling is the language, and your inner state is constantly communicating with the future. The more elevated your state, the more aligned you become with new possibilities. Stay here for a moment, breathing, feeling, allowing. Notice how different this feels from the emotional patterns you've known. Notice the lightness, the openness, the expansion. This is what happens when you stop rehearsing the past and begin rehearsing possibility. You become available for something new. You become receptive. You become magnetic. You begin to operate from creation rather than reaction, and as your body drifts closer to sleep, another process begins. The conscious mind becomes quieter, the analytical voice softens. The barriers that normally separate the familiar from the possible begin to relax. This is why tonight matters, because sleep is not merely rest, it is transition, a bridge, a sacred interval between one day and the next. And as you cross that bridge, you can carry a new identity with you. Not an identity based on struggle, not an identity based on lack, not an identity based on fear, but an identity rooted in possibility, rooted in intention, rooted in conscious creation. See yourself waking tomorrow morning. Before you open your eyes, feel the difference. Feel the calm, feel the clarity, feel the quiet confidence. Notice how your first thoughts are different. Notice how your energy is different. Notice how your attention naturally moves toward opportunity instead of limitation, toward solutions instead of problems, toward growth instead of fear. See yourself moving through the day with a renewed sense of purpose. Every interaction reflecting your new state, every choice reinforcing your new identity, every moment becoming evidence that transformation is already underway. You are no longer waiting for change. You are embodying it. You are no longer searching for proof. You are becoming the proof. And as your awareness continues to relax, allow these ideas to settle deeply within you, not as words, not as concepts, but as living possibilities, possibilities that are taking root in the deepest levels of your mind, possibilities that will continue growing long after this moment, like seeds planted in fertile soil, quietly, potently, powerfully. Trust the process, trust the intelligence within you. Trust the part of you that knows how to heal, knows how to evolve, knows how to create, knows how to become. Because transformation is not something you force. It is something you allow. And tonight, you are allowing yourself to release, allowing yourself to expand, allowing yourself to remember that you are far more than your history, far more than your circumstances, far more than the story you've been telling yourself. You are possibility in motion. You are potential becoming reality. You are consciousness awakening to itself. And somewhere between this breath and the next, somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, somewhere between who you have been and who you are becoming, a shift is already taking place, quietly, effortlessly, naturally, the old self loosening its grip, the new self emerging, not tomorrow, not someday, now in this moment, in this breath, in this surrender. And as you continue relaxing deeper and deeper, allow yourself to feel the certainty that something beautiful is unfolding beneath the surface, even if you cannot yet see it. Allow yourself to rest in the knowing that change does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives silently, gently reshaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your perception while you sleep. Tonight, You are giving yourself permission to enter that sacred space where transformation happens naturally, where possibility becomes familiar, and where the future begins to organize itself around the person you have chosen to become. Allow your awareness to drift even deeper now, beyond the surface level of thought, beyond the endless stream of analysis, beyond the need to understand every step of the journey. There is a wisdom within you that does not require explanation. It does not need logic. It does not need evidence. It simply knows. Tonight, you are reconnecting with that wisdom. Notice how often the mind has been conditioned to search outside itself for permission. Permission to change. Permission to begin again. Permission to believe in something greater. Yet the most powerful permission has always been available within you. It arrives the moment you decide that your future no longer needs to resemble your past. Feel the quiet power of that realization. You are not waiting for a better moment. You are not waiting for circumstances to align. You are not waiting for someone to validate your worth. You are choosing. And every meaningful transformation begins with a choice that is made internally long before it becomes visible externally. Imagine your old patterns as pathways through a forest. For years, perhaps even decades, you have traveled the same roads, the same reactions, the same emotional responses, the same expectations. Every repetition has strengthened those pathways until they began to feel automatic. But tonight, you are stepping off those familiar roads. At first, the new path may seem unfamiliar. The old mind may attempt to pull you back toward what it already knows, not because it is right, not because it is best, but because it is familiar. Understand this deeply. Familiar does not always mean beneficial. Familiar does not always mean true. Familiar simply means practiced, and anything that has been practiced can be replaced with something new. As your body becomes heavier and more relaxed, imagine that every breath is creating a new pathway within you, a pathway of confidence, a pathway of abundance, a pathway of health, a pathway of peace, a pathway of freedom. With every inhale, these pathways become stronger. With every exhale, the old pathways lose their influence. You do not need to fight the old self. You do not need to resist it. You do not need to judge it. Simply stop feeding it. Stop energizing it. Stop rehearsing it. And like a fire deprived of fuel, it gradually loses its power. Feel how liberating that is. You are not at war with yourself. You are simply evolving beyond what is no longer needed. Imagine looking back at every version of yourself that existed before this moment. The younger self who doubted, the self who struggled, the self who feared failure, the self who carried disappointment, the self who felt uncertain, the self who believed they were limited. See them all standing behind you, not as enemies, not as mistakes, but as chapters. Important chapters, necessary chapters. They brought you here. Honor them, thank them, and then continue forward, because a chapter is not the entire book. A season is not an entire lifetime. An experience is not an identity. You are allowed to move beyond every version of yourself that no longer reflects your highest potential. Feel the truth of that settling into your awareness. There is no rule that says you must remain who you were. There is no law that requires you to repeat the same emotional experiences forever. There is no obligation to carry yesterday's limitations into tomorrow. You are free. Perhaps more free than you have ever realized. Take a slow breath and imagine a warm light surrounding you, not outside of you, within you. A radiant energy that has always existed beneath the noise of daily life. Feel it expanding through your chest, through your shoulders, through your arms, through your entire body. This light represents possibility, potential, awareness, creation. It represents the part of you that has never been damaged by circumstances, the part of you that remains whole regardless of what has happened, the part of you that cannot be diminished by failure or strengthened by success because its value is already complete. Spend a moment connecting with that part of yourself. Notice how calm it feels, how steady, how present. This is the place from which true transformation emerges, not from desperation, not from fear, but from wholeness. When you create from wholeness, your desires no longer come from a sense of lack, they come from expansion. You no longer seek change because something is wrong with you. You seek change because something magnificent is possible. That shift changes everything. Imagine now that your future is not a distant destination. Imagine it exists right here. As a field of possibilities surrounding you, infinite versions of tomorrow, infinite versions of yourself. Some continue repeating old patterns, some remain trapped within familiar emotional cycles, but others have awakened. Others have stepped into confidence. Others have discovered peace. Others have embraced abundance. Others have unlocked creativity, purpose, joy, and fulfillment. Tonight, you are tuning your awareness toward those possibilities. Like adjusting the frequency on a radio, you are no longer focusing on limitation. You are no longer broadcasting doubt. You are choosing a different signal, a signal of gratitude, a signal of trust, a signal of possibility. The more consistently you embody that signal, the more naturally your life begins reflecting it. Allow yourself to feel grateful for things that have not yet appeared. This may seem unusual at first. The mind has been taught to wait for evidence before feeling gratitude, but transformation often requires the opposite. Feel gratitude first, become the emotional match first, embody the future first, and then watch how reality begins responding. Feel grateful for your growth, grateful for your potential, grateful for opportunities already moving towards you, grateful for solutions already forming, grateful for the unseen forces working in your favor. Let gratitude fill every corner of your awareness. Notice how impossible it is to feel deep gratitude and deep fear at the same time. One state replaces the other. One energy transforms the other. Tonite. Gratitude becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, a new identity begins emerging. See yourself living from that identity, not occasionally, not temporarily, consistently. Notice the thoughts that person thinks, thoughts of possibility, thoughts of confidence, thoughts of abundance, thoughts of self-respect. Notice the emotions they experience: calm, joy, curiosity, inspiration, purpose. Notice the decisions they make. Notice the opportunities they recognize. Notice the relationships they attract. Notice the way they respond when challenges arise. They do not collapse into old patterns. They do not surrender their power. They remain centered, grounded, aware, connected to something greater than temporary circumstances. Allow yourself to become familiar with that version of you. The more familiar it becomes internally, the more natural it becomes externally. Because every external change begins as an internal rehearsal. Every achievement begins as a possibility imagined repeatedly. Every breakthrough begins as a belief strengthened through attention. Your attention is powerful. Where you place it matters. What you repeatedly focus upon expands within your experience. Tonight, choose your focus deliberately. Focus on what you are creating. Focus on what you are becoming. Focus on what is possible. Focus on the qualities you wish to embody. Focus on the life that calls to you. And whenever the old mind attempts to pull you back into familiar worries, simply notice, do not resist, do not judge, observe. Then gently return your attention to the future you are creating. This is how change happens. Not through force, through repetition, through awareness, through consistent alignment. Imagine now that every cell of your body is listening. Every part of you receiving a new instruction, not through words alone, but through emotion, through intention, through belief. Every cell receiving the message. We are becoming something greater. We are releasing what no longer serves us. We are opening ourselves to new possibilities. We are aligning with our highest potential. We are ready. Feel that message moving throughout your body like waves of energy, like ripples across still water, every breath amplifying it, every moment deepening it. And as your conscious mind continues relaxing, these impressions begin settling into deeper levels of awareness, the place where habits are formed, the place where beliefs are stored, the place where identity is shaped. Tonight, you are planting new instructions there, new assumptions, new expectations, new possibilities. Imagine waking up weeks from now and noticing subtle changes, a greater sense of peace, a greater sense of confidence, a greater sense of trust. You begin responding differently, thinking differently, feeling differently. Others notice it too, not because you are pretending, not because you are forcing it, but because something genuine has shifted within you. The transformation has become real. It has moved beyond imagination and into embodiment. And even then, you continue growing, because growth has no final destination. Expansion has no finish line. There is always another level of awareness, another level of freedom, another level of possibility, another version of yourself waiting to emerge. Tonight is simply one step in that unfolding journey. An important step, a powerful step, a conscious step. The moment you decided that your future deserves more attention than your past. The moment you decided that possibility deserves more energy than limitation. The moment you chose creation over repetition. And as you continue drifting deeper into relaxation, allow these ideas to become less like thoughts and more like realities. Allow them to move beyond understanding and into experience. Allow yourself to feel what it would be like if everything you desire was already beginning to take shape. Feel the relief, feel the trust, feel the excitement, feel the certainty that life is responding to the person you are becoming. Not the person you were, not the person you feared you might remain, but the person you are consciously choosing to embody now. And with every passing moment, that choice becomes stronger, more natural, more familiar, more real. Until eventually, the new identity feels so natural that you can barely remember what it felt like to be limited by the old one. And even now, as your awareness floats effortlessly between wakefulness and sleep, your mind is beginning to accept new possibilities as normal, new emotions as familiar, and new realities as inevitable. The boundaries that once seemed permanent are becoming flexible. The assumptions that once seemed unquestionable are becoming optional. The future that once felt distant is beginning to feel close, accessible, and alive within your imagination. And the more vividly you connect with it, the more deeply your entire being begins organizing itself around that vision. Remain here for a little while longer, resting in this space between what was and what can be. There is no effort required, no struggle, no force, just awareness, just presence, just the quiet unfolding of a new possibility within you. Notice how different this feels from the way most people approach change. They try to fight their habits. They argue with their fears. They wrestle with their doubts. They attempt to force themselves into becoming someone new while remaining emotionally attached to who they have always been. But transformation does not happen through inner conflict. Transformation happens when awareness becomes greater than conditioning. Tonight, your awareness is expanding. You are beginning to see that many of the limitations you accepted as permanent were simply patterns repeated so often that they began to feel like facts. Yet a repeated thought is not necessarily true. A familiar emotion is not necessarily accurate. A long-held belief is not necessarily permanent. Everything can change when consciousness changes. Feel the depth of that realization. You are not trapped by your past experiences. You are not imprisoned by previous results. You are not confined by old conclusions. The future remains unwritten, and every moment you spend embodying a new state of being becomes a vote for a different future. Imagine standing before an enormous mirror, but this mirror does not reflect your appearance. It reflects your identity. As you gaze into it, you begin seeing the beliefs you carry about yourself. You see every assumption, every expectation, every hidden conclusion, every story. Notice them without judgment. Simply observe. Perhaps you notice beliefs that say success must be difficult. Perhaps you notice beliefs that say you are not ready. Perhaps you notice beliefs that tell you to play small, stay safe, and avoid uncertainty. Perhaps you notice old fears disguised as practical thinking. Allow yourself to see them clearly. And then imagine those beliefs beginning to fade from the mirror, like words written on glass slowly disappearing, one by one, until the surface becomes clear again. Now, in that clear reflection, begin placing new beliefs. I am capable of growth. I am worthy of abundance. I trust my ability to create change. I welcome new possibilities. I am becoming more than I have been. I choose courage over fear. I choose faith over doubt. I choose expansion over limitation. Watch those beliefs becoming brighter, stronger, more vivid. Notice how your emotional state shifts as you accept them, because beliefs are not merely ideas. They are lenses through which reality is interpreted. Chance the lens and the experience changes. Chance the assumption and new opportunities become visible. Chance the identity and different actions become natural. Tonight, you are not merely thinking differently. You are becoming different. Feel your body resting more deeply now, the muscles soft, the breathing steady, the mind quieting. As the body sleeps, the deeper mind remains receptive, listening. learning, adapting, integrating. Imagine every positive possibility you have ever hoped for existing as seeds within fertile soil. Some seeds have already begun growing. Others are still beneath the surface. Yet all of them contain potential, and just because you cannot see a seed growing does not mean growth is not occurring. This is important to remember. Many people abandon their transformation because they do not see immediate evidence. They forget that roots develop before branches, foundations form before structures rise. Internal change precedes external change. Tonight, trust the roots, trust the unseen process. Trust the invisible work taking place beneath the surface of your awareness. There are shifts occurring within you that cannot yet be measured. New neural pathways forming, new emotional associations developing, new expectations taking shape, new possibilities becoming familiar. All of it happening quietly. All of it happening naturally. All of it happening now. Take another slow breath. Imagine that with every inhale, you are gathering fragments of your highest potential. With every exhale, you are releasing fragments of limitation. Inhale possibility, exhale doubt. Inhale confidence, exhale hesitation. Inhale freedom, exhale fear. Continue breathing in this rhythm, allowing, receiving, expanding. Notice how effortless growth becomes when resistance dissolves. Notice how naturally change emerges when you stop gripping the old identity. For so long, perhaps without realizing it, you have carried expectations inherited from experiences that no longer exist. Old disappointments creating future caution. Old failures creating future hesitation. Old pain creating future protection. Yet tonight, you are stepping beyond those inherited expectations. You are recognizing that yesterday does not have the authority to define tomorrow. You are reclaiming that authority for yourself. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast horizon, the sky stretching endlessly in every direction, the air calm, the atmosphere filled with possibility. Ahead of you lies a future not yet experienced, a future still responsive to your thoughts, your emotions, your choices, and your beliefs. Feel the excitement of that. Not anxiety, not pressure. Excitement, because uncertainty is not always something to fear. Sometimes uncertainty is the space where miracles emerge. Sometimes uncertainty is simply possibility that has not yet taken form. And tonight you are learning to become comfortable within possibility, comfortable within expansion, comfortable within the unknown. The unknown no longer feels threatening, it feels creative. Alive, full of opportunity. Notice how your body responds to this realization. Perhaps there is more relaxation, more openness, more peace. This is what happens when you stop expecting the future to repeat the past. You become available for something new. Imagine now that your future self is standing before you once again, not years ahead, not distant, close enough to touch. This version of you radiates certainty, not certainty about outcomes, certainty about themselves. Certainty about their ability to adapt, to learn, to grow, to overcome, to create. Notice the way they move, the way they think, the way they carry themselves. Notice the calm energy surrounding them. They are no longer consumed by fear of failure because they understand something important. Failure is not an identity. Failure is information, feedback, a lesson. A temporary experience, nothing more. Observe how free they have become because they no longer define themselves by temporary conditions. Now imagine stepping closer, closer, until there is no separation. Allow yourself to merge completely with that version of you. Become them. Think their thoughts. Feel their emotions. See through their eyes. Notice what becomes possible from this perspective. Notice how many of your current concerns appear smaller. Notice how many of your fears lose their intensity. Notice how many opportunities become visible, because perception changes when identity changes. And identity changes when awareness expands. You are expanding now, beyond limitation, beyond old stories, beyond habitual thinking, into something greater, something larger, something more aligned with your highest potential. Feel gratitude for this moment, not because everything is finished, but because everything has begun. The beginning deserves gratitude too. The decision deserves gratitude. The intention deserves gratitude. The willingness deserves gratitude. Many people spend their lives waiting for certainty before they commit. Yet certainty often appears after commitment, not before. Tonight, You are committing to a new possibility. You are committing to a new identity. You are committing to a new relationship with yourself. One based on trust rather than criticism, one based on growth rather than judgment, one based on possibility rather than limitation. Allow that commitment to settle deeply within you, like an anchor, like a foundation, like a quiet promise made to yourself. A promise that you will no longer underestimate your potential. A promise that you will no longer define yourself by old experiences. A promise that you will continue becoming, again and again, feel how powerful that is. Every day offers another opportunity to reinforce this identity. Every morning offers another opportunity to choose consciously. Every thought offers another opportunity to align. Every emotion offers another opportunity to create. Life becomes different when you realize that creation is not reserved for rare moments. Creation is continuous. You are always creating through attention, through perception, through expectation, through emotion. The question is not whether you are creating. The question is what you are creating. Tonight, you are creating deliberately, consciously, intentionally. Imagine your future unfolding in beautiful ways, doors opening, connections forming. Insights arriving, opportunities appearing, challenges transforming into growth, moments of synchronicity guiding your path, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your awareness becomes aligned. You begin noticing what was always available. You begin responding from a higher state. You begin attracting experiences consistent with who you have become. Feel that alignment now. Feel the coherence. Feel the harmony between your thoughts and emotions, between your intentions and your actions, between your present self and your future self. Everything moving into greater balance. Everything moving into greater clarity. Everything moving into greater possibility. As your body drifts deeper into comfort, imagine a gentle wave of peace moving from the top of your head downward, relaxing every muscle, calming every thought, softening every layer of tension. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is arising from within. It is your natural state, beneath the noise, beneath the stress, beneath the conditioning, beneath the constant activity of the mind. And the more often you return to this state, the more familiar it becomes. The more familiar it becomes, the more naturally you carry it into daily life. Soon, peace is no longer something you occasionally experience. It becomes who you are. Confidence becomes who you are. Abundance becomes who you are. Gratitude becomes who you are. Joy becomes who you are. Not temporary emotions, not fleeting experiences, ways of being. And as these ways of being become established within you, your external world begins reflecting them with increasing clarity. The transformation that began as a thought becomes a feeling, the feeling becomes a habit. The habit becomes an identity, the identity becomes a reality. And even now, while your conscious mind continues surrendering to rest, deeper parts of you are already embracing this new reality. They are already adapting to new possibilities, already releasing outdated limitations, already accepting greater levels of confidence, peace, abundance, creativity, and purpose. Every breath deepens the process. Every moment strengthens the connection. Every second spent in this elevated state makes the future version of you feel more familiar, more natural, more authentic, until the line between imagination and embodiment becomes so thin that your entire being begins living as though the transformation has already occurred.